In today's lesson, we're going to identify types of lines in two-dimensional shapes. We're going to look at triangles, quadrilaterals, pentagons, hexagons, and octagons. As you look at the images on the next few pages, I want you to analyze the types of lines that make up the shape that you are looking at. Remember, we're looking for examples of parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and intersecting lines. Take a look at the three triangles represented on this page. We have isosceles and scalene, equilateral, and right triangles. Are all the lines the same? I see sets of intersecting lines. Do you see sets of parallel lines? No. That's because none of the triangles are made up of parallel lines. Do you see a triangle that has a set of perpendicular lines? Yes, a right triangle has a set of perpendicular lines. Right here is a set of perpendicular lines. I can see the square corner in the bottom left-hand corner of the triangle. So to review, all triangles have at least two pairs of intersecting lines. They do not have any parallel lines. Right triangles are different because they have one pair of perpendicular lines. Moving on to quadrilaterals. Here we have a square and a rectangle. What type of lines do you see? I see two sets of parallel lines, and I see two sets of perpendicular lines. Is that the same for a rectangle? The next two quadrilaterals we're going to talk about are trapezoids and parallelograms. When you look at the red trapezoid, I want you to analyze the types of lines that make up that shape. Do you see any parallel lines? Do you see more than one set of parallel lines? No, there's only one set of parallel lines. When you look at the other sides, do you see perpendicular lines or do you see intersecting lines? Remember, when you're trying to determine whether it is made up of perpendicular lines or intersecting lines, you have to look at the corners. Are these four corners square corners? No, they're not square corners. Therefore, a trapezoid has two sets of intersecting lines. The next shape is a parallelogram. When I look at the word parallelogram, I see the word parallel in it. Therefore, I know this shape is made up of parallel lines. But is this shape made up of perpendicular lines or intersecting lines? Once again, I'm going to look at the corners or the vertices. Are those square corners? If they're not square corners, then it's not made up of perpendicular lines. These two quadrilaterals do not have any perpendicular lines. The next shape is a five-sided shape, a pentagon. A pentagon can be a regular pentagon or it can be an irregular pentagon, so you'll have to pay attention. This pentagon doesn't have any sets of parallel lines right here. I also do not see any square corners, so this shape is made up of intersecting lines. But when I look at the irregular pentagon, yes, it still has five vertices. But when I look at the corners, I see two square corners. So I have two sets of perpendicular lines. Do I have any sets of parallel lines? Yes, I have a set of parallel lines right here. So unlike the regular pentagon, it doesn't have any perpendicular lines and it doesn't have any parallel lines, but this irregular one does. So you'll have to pay attention to the vertices. Hexagons. Hexagons are six-sided shapes. Here I have a regular hexagon. So it has six sides and it has six vertices. I'm going to start with my vertices. Do I have any square corners? No, I don't. So I don't have any perpendicular lines. So all of those are pairs of intersecting lines. There are three pairs of intersecting lines. Now I need to look for parallel lines. this line and this line are not parallel, and I see that this line and this line are not parallel either. But are the opposite sides parallel to one another? Yes, they are. So hexagons have 3 sets of parallel lines. Last but not least, octagons. Octagons are made up of 8 sides. They have 8 vertices. So I'm going to look at the vertices first. Do we have any square corners? No, we don't. So therefore, we don't have any perpendicular lines. I have 4 sets of intersecting lines. Now I need to look at the sides to determine if we have parallel lines. Just like with the hexagon, you should probably look at opposite sides. How many sets of parallel lines was that? 4. An octagon has 4 sets of parallel lines. 4 times 2 is 8. Therefore, we get 8 sides. In this lesson, we reviewed 3 types of lines: parallel, perpendicular, and intersecting. We discussed and analyzed the types of lines that make up various two-dimensional shapes.